He no longer prioritised me, and I no longer felt the love I did at the beginning of the relationship, and the red flags were becoming more and more clear. He didn't want to be seen with me. He would turn his phone away when he was using it. When I dropped him home, he would quickly rush in. I was blocked on Facebook still. Was never invited to hang out with his friends or family, and he'd never post pictures of us together. Oh, I'm sorry. Done. Loves, happy Tuesday. I'm back. I'm really sorry I missed a week last week. You know, it makes me feel like absolute shit when I miss a week. And I had such nice messages from everyone last week as well, like really nice ones. I shared them on my Instagram. And then it just makes me feel even worse. Not that I'm saying don't send me the messages, because obviously I do love them. Please keep sending them. No, but it just makes me feel really guilty. But life has just been lifing, guys. And a couple of weeks I'll be able to give you an update and everything will make sense. But yeah, I just couldn't get it done. That's the long and short of it. And I'm sorry. Hopefully you can forgive me. And hopefully you're back this week. Try and bring this mic closer. It's very echoey in here, which is weird because I have actually got furniture now. But it's like when I actually talk by myself, I realise it's very echoey. But very shortly, I'm going to have a new space to record in. I say new space, it's literally the room next door. But it feels like a really big deal for me because you know how fussy I am with recording. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. Thank you for bearing with me throughout this whole stage and phase of my life. Honestly, the emotional roller coaster, I'm pleased to say, is ending. I think, week before last, I think it was starting, and I was saying how unhinged I was. I am back to normal now. This isn't the reason I didn't record, but oh my God, last week, I had a really bad time of the month last week. I don't know why. And I woke up this morning, right, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, I've lost weight. How strange. I haven't done anything differently. I haven't done an ounce of exercise. I haven't eaten good. I've lost weight. I was like, amazing. And I was walking around, I was like, I feel so good. And then it occurred to me my period had finished. That's why. So do you know what? It's good being a woman, but it is tough at the top. As I'm sure most of you know. And actually I've got a few stories this week and all of them lead to why it's hard being a woman. Honestly, we do get it hard, guys. Anyway, I've got a story for us this week. I've actually got a few to get through, so if you sent ones to me, please be patient, as always. And I've got one to get through today, and I actually spoke to her at the time she messaged, and then I got an update message. So I thought I would do everything now, because now obviously sometimes we get a story and then we don't really know the ending. And I've had a few times where you guys have sent me questions like, but has she dumped him? Has she done this? What happened to the house? And I'm like, I don't know. But this week I've got the answers for us as well. So yeah, let's get into it as always. Hey, just want to start by saying that I love your podcast and your stories help so many people feel like they aren't alone. Which, as I say, guys, anyone that sends their stories to us, I'm always grateful because it helps somebody else. And then I get so many messages saying, I listened to this episode and I can relate and it made me feel so much better. And can I share my story? It's going to feel really therapeutic for me. So yeah, thank you to everyone that shares their stories because you guys go into so much detail. And yeah, it doesn't go unnoticed from me and from everyone that listens to the podcast. Oh my God, I just got a text from my boyfriend. It says, I just got abused for 1 hour. And I'm like reading it. I said a sports massage was the wrong choice. It helped my shoulders though. Do you know what? A joint thing, man and woman. One tough thing about getting older is the back and the neck pain. Are you with me? Because my God, every day I'm like, oh, my back's hurting, my back. I have to lie down in certain positions. I found a TikTok trend the other day that I was doing to get your back to click. I'm in a new phase of my life now where my hips are starting to click. Like not my hip bones, but like the inner hips, like my thigh basically. That's starting to crack. I didn't even know that was a thing. Very strange. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb so I don't get any more interruptions. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, basically, she sends very nice message, and she said, your honesty and openness about your own struggles are what I love about your account. So yeah, well done. Thank you guys. It's a safe space here for sharing our trauma and our pain and our happiness. Anyway, right, okay. She said, I wanted to share my story with you, I guess in an attempt to truly understand how I'm feeling. So I met my boyfriend on Tinder and we've been together for 1.5 years. We live in separate cities. When I met him, he was still married, separated for 2 years, and going through a nasty divorce. It's a red flag for me. I'm sorry. And someday I might be in that position where I'm telling somebody on a date, yeah, I'm separated from my husband, but we are technically still married. And he's going to say, no, thank you, ma'am, goodbye. And I'm going to be pleading to him saying, no, honestly, I am. That's what's happened. Because I know divorces take a long time, but still I can't help but feel like if you meet somebody and they're married, it's just a red flag for me. I'm sorry. Okay, she says, his ex had been taking out loans and credit cards in his name and left him with a lot of debt. He doesn't drive and has struggled with keeping long-term employment. It's not looking good, bruv. As a result, I have helped him with both his bills and debt payments. Okay. At the end of last year, his mental health deteriorated. Not surprising, to be fair. And without listing everything that's gone wrong for him the past year, above and beyond that, his grandfather, the man who raised him, has just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. When we first met, he was loving and would touch me and want to be with me all the time. For the past few months, his mental health has deteriorated significantly, and I believe this has resulted in him becoming less affectionate towards me. We don't have sex anymore, he hardly touches me, and he no longer sends me nice messages throughout the day. I've not yet met anyone who has been in a similar position to me, and I think being the partner of someone who had... I've not yet met anyone who has been in a similar position to me, and I think being the partner of someone who... why can't I say this sentence? I've not yet met anyone who has been in a similar position to me, and I think being the partner of someone with such bad mental health is not talked about enough. It's emotionally draining, but because you love them so much, you don't want them to leave their side. It's emotionally draining, but because you love them so much, you don't want to leave their side, but also you have no idea what to do or where you stand. You don't receive the love you desire and are constantly hoping they'll go back to how they used to be. Do you know what? It's actually not spoken about enough, because I feel like when you are the one with the bad mental health, that, to be fair, is spoken about a lot now. I will tell literally anyone that will listen without any push. We can not be talking about mental health, and I will tell anyone about the time I had anxiety and I was crying to go to work and I had therapy, because I just think it was so life-changing for me that I want everyone to know that you can have help for your problems and it shouldn't be frowned upon. So I will tell anyone that, but if my boyfriend or somebody I was close to had mental health struggles, I wouldn't be so open about it, because obviously it's their stories. But also it is, I don't think we're there yet with our stigma, because it's like you almost shouldn't feel selfish with it. Do you get me? It's like if somebody's going through a bad time, you kind of probably feel like you have to take it and deal with it, really. But what I will say is, when I've had my anxiety struggles, my ex did tell me when we broke up, obviously we've kept in touch loads over the years, and on one of the times we kept in touch, he said, to be fair, I used to find it hard that if you were in a bad mood or feeling down, then you wouldn't want to talk to me. And he was like, I never experienced that before. And I thought, oh my God, that's really bad. Because sometimes, I've said on this podcast, sometimes if I'm in a bad mood or I'm down or whatever, I just don't want to speak to a single soul. I just want to cocoon myself in bed, and it doesn't even have to be in bed, to be fair, but sometimes I just simply don't want to talk to you. It's not personal. And I don't know, most people can accept that, but sometimes I think, especially for your romantic partner, it's hard, and I definitely am guilty of that. So yeah, I think it's a really hard situation, especially when you're not having sex. You know, you're not getting railed, you're not getting that satisfaction that you need and want and deeply long for. Deep and long are not puns, but hey, they could be. But you know, everyone got needs, and yeah, this is sometimes, I think, the side to affairs and cheating and disrespects, this is the side that you don't see, where people will say, well, just because I was depressed and leaves are okay for you to go and do what you want. And no, it's not okay, but sometimes you have got to be a little bit understanding for the other person. There's a lot to go through if your partner's turning into a different person. Well, that was a long segue, sorry. So, recap, she's with her boyfriend, he's suffering from his mental health, and basically they're not having any physical contact. And also the nice messages throughout the day, like that's not nice. On our 1-year anniversary, I posted a Facebook post with pictures of us and a nice message and tagged him in it. He immediately called me and got angry about it, saying his ex had seen it and is now refusing to sign the divorce papers, resulting in me having to delete the post and him blocking me. He eventually did unblock, and a couple of months ago we had an argument to which he blocked me again. I mentioned to him how it made me feel, and he said he would unblock me on Snapchat but not on Facebook. I asked why, and he said because he had deleted his account. I checked this and saw his account was still active. I mean, obviously, why say you've deleted your Facebook account? It's the easiest thing to find out if you're lying or not. Like, does this man not think we haven't got Google or a friend or the internet? Like, come on now. She said, I chose not to mention this to avoid any more conflict. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. While searching his name on Google, a TikTok account came up, and it was a public account with videos of him. Mostly just videos saying rate me or add me on Snap, which I thought was odd, definitely, as he had never mentioned this to me. Again, I didn't bring this up, but it was playing on my mind. Last week I asked why... No, guys, sorry, I've got to interrupt you because there's too much going on. Can I just say, his ex refusing to sign the divorce papers because she's seen him with somebody else. That's the biggest red flag to me, because that should be motivation for her to divorce him. Because why do you still want to be married to somebody that's blatantly dating somebody else, that is so happily dating somebody else that they're making a Facebook post about them on their anniversary? Like, would I want to be married still to my ex knowing he's in a full-blown relationship with somebody else? No. I'd be embarrassed firstly. I'd be like, why? I don't want to be associated with you because you've moved on and it's making me look like I haven't. So that I cannot understand from the ex's point of view. That's very bitter. And also, you married when they got together. So it's not like staying married to him is going to stop him from seeing somebody else because he's already moved on. So that's bizarre. Even more bizarre why he then blocked his own girlfriend. Very strange, and I don't like it. Okay. Also, the rate me on Snap. I mean, how old is this guy? Come on. Okay, so she said she saw the videos. She thought it was odd. He'd never mentioned this to me. Again, I didn't bring this up, but it was playing on my mind. It made me sad that she didn't bring it up. Last week, I asked why he had been lying to me, and he immediately got defensive. I mentioned the Facebook and TikTok, and he again said he was done and blocked me. The next day we spoke on the phone, which ended up with me apologising to him and him not acknowledging my feelings at all. This left me feeling like I'd fallen into the same habits I used to do with my narcissistic father, who I no longer have contact with, and has left me in a position I don't want to be in. Now I'm in two minds because I know his mental state at the moment is awful, but I also have to think about myself at the same time. I know in my heart what the right thing to do is, but I'm scared. Can I just say, it's so telling when you know, like, I feel like she knows already she wants to break up with this guy, but she's like basically asking anyone, is it justifiable because of his mental health state? But I know mental health is bad, right? And like I said, when I'm feeling down, sometimes I don't want to talk to people. But would I block him and tell him I'm done with him and be breaking up with him left, right and centre and shouting at them and getting defensive and also creating videos of myself asking people to rate me? I don't know about that. I don't think so. But like, I don't think mental health should be an excuse to be nasty to somebody, especially not your partner. And I know it's a very grey area. I know that because people who are depressed are generally miserable and can act out against people. I know. But come on. I just think apart from anything else, if somebody is so willing to block you after any ounce of problem, if someone's so willing to end the relationship and block you, then let them do it. Like, bye-bye. Because if I'm coming to you with a problem, you should respect me and respect the relationship. And not even just respect it, but want to be in the relationship enough to listen and think, do you know what? I know I'm being a dick at the minute, but I'm struggling, but I'm sorry and I'm going to try. No, I'm being a dick, what? And you're actually coming to me and questioning me about it. Bye. Like, no, there's only so much somebody can take. And no, if somebody, I just think if you go up to somebody and say, like, I'm struggling with this, and they say, fuck you, I'm going to block you. Happy days, block them back. And when they come around, which they always will in a couple of days, and unblock you, just let them see that your picture's gone and they can't text you anymore, and just tell them to I was going to say this word, but I'll refrain, I'm not there yet. Tell them to F off, because I don't think anyone should be that willing to not listen to you, especially if they're going through mental health issues, because if you're going through a bad thing, wouldn't you have some empathy and be like, well, you were feeling bad as well, I feel shit, so yeah, sorry. So yeah, I just think obviously she's going through a really hard time with that. And I was actually much more sympathetic, I think, in my message back to her, but basically trying to say, like, these are red flags, you know, a lot of red flags, and I don't think you can use your mental health as an excuse to treat people like that. And she replied saying, I actually made the decision shortly after sending the message to you to break up with him for my own mental health and sanity. He no longer prioritised me, and I no longer felt the love I did at the beginning of the relationship, and the red flags were becoming more and more clear. He didn't want to be seen with me. He would turn his phone away when he was using it. When I dropped him home, he would quickly rush in. I was blocked on Facebook still, was never invited to hang out with his friends or family, and he'd never post pictures of us together. No, I'm sorry. Done. Done. You can be depressed, but come on. No. 2 days after I broke up with him, I searched for him on social media and saw it said he was in a relationship with another woman, one of his sister's friends. I messaged him to ask him how long he'd been cheating on me for, and he denied it. So I messaged the woman. Oh my God, you go, girl. She confirmed they had been seeing each other for 6 months. I feel really embarrassed that I ignored the signs and that I let him use depression as a tool for manipulation. When he found out I had messaged his new girlfriend, he completely turned and just told me to leave them alone. I never received an apology, and he never admitted to the cheating. The past couple of weeks have been tough for me, especially knowing he's happy and in love, is he? And probably lied to everyone about me. I did so much for him and was always loyal and by his side, even when he was giving me nothing. I was even paying all his bills to help him out. That makes me sick. Now I know he just took advantage of me. But luckily, I'm now starting to feel like me. I'm feeling happier and more positive than I have the past few months. I'm starting personal training sessions from tomorrow, and I'm focusing on my business, my friends, and buying a house. I know that my life is going up from here, which I love. I love the happy ending. She feels it. I just think, you know, when you're around someone that bad and that toxic, when you're in it, I've said this before, you don't really realise how bad it is. And then I think when you come out of it, as shit as it is, obviously going through the breakup, a part of it, when it's that wrong and it's been that wrong for so long, that rhymes, I feel like you just would feel like a sigh of relief, like a freedom. And when people say a weight lifted off you, I think you can actually feel it. And I always say this, that like your body feels stuff, so you'll be feeling so down and anxious, and that'll come out in your body. So obviously when you take away that misery, your body will feel better, and you'll feel lighter. And yeah, I love that she got a happy ending there by herself. Like, they're always my favourite type of happy endings, when you find them within yourself, not just because you've met somebody else or because, you know, you've done something amazing. When you've got it just by being yourself, really, and being with yourself. They're the best kinds. But can I say, right, she should not feel embarrassed at all. And then nobody should feel embarrassed. It's always easy to do that in hindsight. Like, oh, I should have left earlier. All the signs are there. But you're in love with this person. You're obviously not going to see the signs that clearly. You're going to believe what they tell you because you love them. And if you don't feel like that, then there's no point being in a relationship with them, because part of being in a good relationship is loving them and trusting them and supporting them and believing them. Obviously, you can't be with somebody if you're not going to believe everything they say. So you should never feel embarrassed about it, because obviously everything's better in hindsight, easier I should say in hindsight. But this is like proof of, sometimes I read this, did I read it or listen to it? Sometimes you can just tell when somebody is having an affair, like the signs are there. And unfortunately he used having depression as an excuse, but in reality he was obviously having an affair, and that's why he didn't want to touch you anymore. That's why he was, you know, shutting down and not messaging you and all the rest of it. So I don't know what my point for this is, because obviously sometimes people are just going to have depression and not want to speak to you. But I do kind of think that sometimes I think it's right in recognising different energies. Like, you know, sometimes you make jokes about, there was like a TikTok the other day about how you suddenly notice somebody's energy shift and you assume they don't like you. My friend is the worst for it. Like, if a guy takes too long to reply to her, or if he replies with a different tone, she'll cut it off, because she's like, I can sense it. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I do think sometimes it is good to have your wits about you, because you can tell sometimes, and if the energy is changing, lots of times there is a reason for it, and that could be that they're moving on, or that they sort of checking out of the relationship. So I think it's good to, just be aware of it sometimes maybe, and just speak to people, like, if you do feel like their energy's bad, you know. This happened on one of my catch-ups with my ex. It's happened twice, right? So, like I said, we've had catch-ups, like, on and off. Oh, there's a fly in there. Sorry, that's for the YouTube viewers. Sometimes I'll say, like, I'm just going to do this, because YouTube viewers are watching me. But obviously if you're listening on Spotify, you're probably like, why the fuck is she telling me there's a fly in her flat? Like, I don't care. Sorry. So basically, when on like a couple of times where I've spoken to my ex and we've caught up wherever, one time I remember me chatting and him, this is the big telltale sign for me, right, is taking a long time to reply. So the messages are always quite back and forth, and, you know, if they're taking a little bit long, he'd be like, oh, sorry, just finished work, etc., right? And then I could tell that he was starting to take longer to reply. And then he took a full day to respond to this message. And the answers, like, weren't rude at all. But they were very, like, not making more conversation. And I was like, okay, he's done. He doesn't want to carry on the conversation. I'm not going to message him again. And that was that. And then, like, a few months later, we're chatting. And he said something which offended me a little bit. So I took a day to respond, because I was like, I don't want to respond. Like, what's the point of me getting into an argument or debate with my ex? Like, there's literally no point to it, in my opinion. You know, it was just a waste of energy. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. But I also don't want to ignore him, because we were very much like long messages back and forth, very unserious. Like, we weren't talking about us much, and even if we did, it was always like in a good way. So I didn't want to like kill the energy, because like we'd been through enough and I didn't need to end on another bad note. But he offended me a little bit, so I took a day to respond, and then I answered quite bluntly. And I was like, he's going to tell that my energy has shifted and he's not going to reply. Anyway, the next day again, he replied to me being like, hey, sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick, but probably not a good idea if we're still messaging, but good to catch up with you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's so true. You can tell when somebody's energy is off, even through text messages. It is crazy. And like I said, I do think my friend sometimes exaggerates it, But you can just tell sometimes, like, when the energy is off. I find that such a fascinating thing in humans. Like, honestly, I find this so interesting how you can meet somebody and you can have just proper connection with them, and it's like an unspoken thing, and you just have this feeling and this connection with them. And then in exactly the same way, you can feel when that connection is changing, and you can feel when the energy shifts. And lots of times it is obviously because their behaviour, like this guy stops having sex, stops sending them messages and all the rest of it. But sometimes it's just in the energy, and I find it really interesting. So okay, guys, I got laser for the first time on the weekend, and I feel compelled to tell you what nobody told me, so that if you ever go, you can be prepared, because let me tell you, I was not. I went in, obviously I was getting the JJ done, full gone, and I went in, I was hungover, so I was feeling very fragile anyway, but that was okay. I was okay with it. I was fragile, but I was okay. I go in, I'm lying down, get undressed, whatever. Got the paper towel covering me for what reason, I have no idea. Anyway, she starts, well, first she has to like draw the lines on you. I don't really understand why, but she's drawing on me. And she starts zapping, and it's quite painful. Not, that bad, like, but it hurts a little bit, right? And I've got like the most sensitive skin to the touch, right? I'm so ridiculously ticklish, it's actually annoying. Like, I can't like rub my fingers up my arm. No, like when you see people that do this like with their nails, and when boys ask you to do it to their back, somebody does it to me, I can't cope with it. I am so ticklish, it's ridiculous, right? So even as this is buzzing down the side of my my vagina, I suppose, I'm like jumping up and down because it's so sensitive. So it's just embarrassing for me. Anyway, without any word of a warning, and I mean literally no words were spoken, she put her hands right on my vagina, like on my actual vulva. Is it the vulva? I don't even know. Like, I'm not talking on the skin, I'm talking like the actual vagina. And she's I can't even bring the right words to talk about it. I just felt so violated, and she was then talking to me just as if it was a very normal thing, and I was like, Alexa, I would have liked a little bit of pre-warning before you started to touch me. I just wasn't expecting it, honestly. So yeah, she touched about, she got in where she needed to go, and, she didn't let me stop her, and to be fair, I was in so much shock, I didn't even try to stop her. And then, right, the most shocking part of all to me, she said to me, turn around and pull your bum cheeks apart. Guys, did you know that they do with your bum as well? Because I wasn't expecting it. Obviously, I'm saying how much shock I was in, right? I didn't say a word to her. I was just like, oh my God. I was turning around thinking, I am absolutely mortified. I don't even need this done, but I just did exactly what she told me. Like, it was like I was frozen in fear, and as I said, I was hungover. I didn't really have the bandwidth to even put up a fight, so I just turned around, just like so shameful. That's how I felt. And I just put my head straight into the tissue and shut my eyes, and I just parted my cheeks as she zapped inside them. And I was just thinking, I just wasn't prepared for it. And how is this woman doing this every day for a job? Because I am deeply, deeply embarrassed and shameful. I just couldn't believe it, guys. And then I turned back around, and she said, okay, all done. I'm going to leave the room for you to get dressed. I was like, hun, I think we're past politeness now. I think we're past that. You've just literally spread my bum cheeks apart, and you've been quite literally inside my JJ. Like, I think I can probably stand up and put my knickers on in front of you. In fact, I would welcome that. No, she left. She's like, okay, I'll just leave you, get ready. I was like, I sat there like, what the hell has just happened? It literally took 10 minutes. I was like, this is the biggest and most confusing and also volatile 10 minutes of my life. I couldn't believe it. But I'll be back in 6 weeks' time having the same thing done again. My God, guys. Honestly. As I said, tough being a woman, my God. Although do guys get it done? Guys probably get it done as well, do they? I'm sure some guys do. I think guys get their backs done and stuff as well, don't they? But yeah, hard being a woman. Do you know as well, right? This is a big reason why it's hard to be a woman. This isn't a jokey bet. I was walking home, I think it was last night, right? And I don't know why, I'm usually quite a chill, cool girl. And I know some girls, women get very frightened when they walk in certain places, which is obviously fair enough because of all the stories you read. But usually around here, I feel alright. I've got a very short walk from the tube to my flat. It's literally like 5 minutes. So I usually feel okay. But for some reason this night I was on edge. And whenever I feel on edge, I always think there's a reason for it. Like, I don't know if I've told you this before, but if I wake up in the middle of the night, just randomly, I'm convinced it's because there's a ghost in the flat. Convinced of it. Because I always think like there's a reason for it. I think maybe I'm too spiritual for my own good sometimes, or too much in my head, or maybe too crazy, wherever. But I was walking home and I was like, oh, I feel a bit uneasy, and it must be because somebody's coming to get me. It must be. That's the only valid reason it could be. Anyway, so then obviously I clock a guy walking behind me and I'm like, okay, I need to be on it. He comes into the same building as me. I'm like, warning, red flags are ringing in my head. I go into the lift, I put my fob, I put my floor number in, and he looks at it and just nods. And I'm like, oh my God, he's on the same floor as me. I very much doubt that he's quite clearly going to come and kidnap me, because this happened to my friend 4 or 5 years ago. She was in a very big building block in Waterloo, security, concierge, all the rest of it, and she had to walk through a side gate, and she was on a FaceTime to her mother. It was the night time, and she was FaceTiming her mother walking home, and all's fine. And then she gets in the lift and she says, I'm going to lose my signal, I'll ring you back when I get in the flat. So she said when she's in the lift, a guy comes in after her, and she said she felt on edge because of the same reason. And I'd never thought about this before, but because of this story, I thought about it this time. And obviously I feel like I should pass this on to you. She basically put her fob, put her floor number in, and he didn't do anything. So immediately she was like, okay, this guy is going to get off on my floor. So she walks out, he waited for her to leave, and she's like trying to think to herself, not freaking out, he could just be on my floor, but also let me freak out. Anyway, he followed her literally back into the flat and tried to get into her flat. Like literally, she was like pushing the door against him, and he had his foot in the door, didn't say a word or anything, but was trying to get into her flat after. Is that not the most scary, terrifying thing you've ever heard? So she screamed, and then as she screamed, he ran. He must have thought, like, shit, somebody's going to come wherever, I'm going to run, and he gave up. But, like, what would have happened, God forbid, if he got into the flat, and he's obviously going to try and do it again to someone. So anyway, it happens, right? So I'm on the floor thinking, oh my God, what's this guy? No, we get out of the flat, out of the lift. I make him go first. Luckily, I was in a position where he could go first. He literally walked next door. It was my literal neighbour, probably the same one that's been bringing my parcels up for me and leaving them outside my door. I was like, oh my God, why is it so hard being a woman with just a casual encounter? You're always worried you're going to get killed or kidnapped. It's tough, guys. It's tough at the top. I've just realised I forgot to add a story from the story we just got. So no, that girl said, she said, sorry for going back here, but I've just realised that I didn't say the story. She said, the past couple of weeks have been tough for me, especially knowing he's happy and in love. Can I just say, I listened to a podcast the other day, and it was about a guy. He was actually, so I basically listened to this podcast, and it's like a therapy session with Esther Perel, who I've mentioned before. I love her. So this guy rang in and said that he had an affair, an emotional affair with a woman in work behind his wife's back. And then he decided to leave his wife and his kids, get with this new woman, ended up living in her parents' house there because it was over lockdown, wild, and got engaged to this other woman, and then just out of nowhere was like, oh my God, what the hell have I done? I need my wife back. Like, this was just the most awful mistake. And then he was in therapy saying he can't forgive himself, and, you know, he's getting on a little bit better with his wife, but can they ever get back together and all that type of stuff, right? And I've remembered it when I read that message, because I thought, this is what happens when you see your ex get with somebody else. You automatically, well, not everyone obviously, but I think naturally our brains lots of the time automatically make us think that they're happy, they're in love, they are happier than me, they've moved on. And I just want to say it's not always the case. This guy literally proposed to somebody else and then was like, what the hell have I done? I need my wife and children back. And it's just like a complete moment of madness for him. But classic, rather than speaking to his wife at the time and saying that he felt that there was a change in the relationship and all the rest of it, he just started the emotional affair with a girl from work and proposed to her. Absolute dickhead. But yeah, that's that. It just reminded me of it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, please remember to like the episode, subscribe, follow, just all the good things. Actually, I asked on the last episode if somebody could take me up to 150 reviews, and last time I checked, I think we were on like 154 or something. So I was literally asking for one person to do the favour for me and leave me a review, and I'm actually going to check how much I'm on now. And we're on 156. So yeah, when things like that happen, I really appreciate it. Just know that I love getting your messages. And yeah, it's always a big help for me if you can share the podcast to people, because as always, we can get stories sent to us and just make the podcast bigger. So yeah, please make sure you're following and you're subscribed if you're watching on YouTube. Let me know your thoughts as always. If you want to send me a story, guys, you can just DM me. But I've had a couple of people asking me lately, like basically saying it's long. You can always email me. The email's in the show notes, Briss, lovewhatluck@gmail.com. And honestly, just pour your hearts out. If it's confusing to read, don't worry, I can edit it. I feel like I've had a couple of messages of people worried how their story's going to be read out. But honestly, just write it as you want. And I mean, sometimes I'll just read it out as it is, but sometimes if it is really long, I can just play about with it. So yeah, if you've got a story to share with us all, then send them in. Anyway, okay, thank you so much, guys, for listening, and I'll speak to you next week.